Hey, we're so excited that you would tune in and join us for the Greenhouse Podcast. Our heart behind this podcast is that you can grow in your faith and encourage you as you walk and live out your faith in your school, in your community, at work, wherever you're at. And so we hope this content comes to you and encourages you. So let's tune in for today's guest. Hey, welcome to episode number 2 of our Greenhouse Podcast. Hey, we're excited because we have an amazing guest with us today, the myth, the man, the legend, David Ryan Cook. And hey, we're excited. David leads worship at his church in California called Oceans Church. He's a songwriter. He's an amazing musician. He also leads worship with SEU and is a phenomenal dude. And so we're excited to have him. And so we welcome David to the podcast. Woo!
Wow.
Hey,
Honored, guys.
yeah,
Honored.
you know what I mean? We're
all mine.
it's, you know what I'm saying? I always feel like the hype up before you start is always like, you just, like, no one knows how to respond after that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
here's how, like, a reel of how great you are.
Absolutely.
And now,
Now.
you just stand there.
Now, what do you have to say for yourself? Do you agree, disagree with the introduction?
Yeah, legit. Okay, here we know that you're on the road a lot. I mean, like, you know,
Yes.
you're singing, you're all doing these things. Here's the most important question: is
Okay.
like, what is your favorite road trip snack? Like, what, you know, airports? What are you spending $10 for? Like, you know, you hit a
Okay.
gas station, quick trip. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, what are you grabbing?
Okay, so it does vary if you're like actually like in an airport as opposed to like in a car on a trip somewhere. I'll give you like real time. Yesterday, I got to the airport. I grabbed a quick Starbucks. I say quick. It wasn't quick at all.
Especially airport.
The line at LAX Delta Terminal Starbucks.
Yeah.
You got to be strategic about when you get to the airport
Yeah.
if you want that coffee.
Yeah.
So I waited in line for that coffee, and then I found out really quickly that my flight was in a terminal that I had to take a shuttle from. That caught me on surprise real quick, but luckily I was there early enough because I wanted my Starbucks drink that I had the time to hop on the shuttle to still make my
Come
flight.
on, that's just God right there.
So I got over to the international terminal, which I don't know why you're flying a domestic flight out of an international terminal, but that is Los Angeles International Airport for you. And something caught my eye, and it was like this little like Italian coffee spot, and they had like wraps. So I'm trying to eat healthier on the road.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So I found like a little Mediterranean chicken wrap.
Okay.
That I was able to scarf down really quick before I got on the flight.
Yeah.
Because
And I love that you said before you go on the flight, because it's also super awkward, the guy that's eating on the flight.
well, yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%. I also had been upgraded, but to a middle seat.
Yeah.
Which is like a whole nother podcast we could like go on to. It's like thankful for the upgrade, but like maybe I would have stayed back where I was because I had an aisle. And you don't want to be the guy in the middle between two people pulling the tray out as soon as you hit like altitude. And you're like, so I've got this feta Mediterranean chicken wrap with Italian dressing. And it's like, hi, my name's David. So you never want to be that guy. So try to scarf it down beforehand. And I also grabbed a little meat and cheese crackers platter thing that I could bring, which I wasn't so embarrassed about. So that's kind of flight, really quick if I can, something in that sense. Now, when we're on the road, you're stopping at a gas station. This is where like no holds barred, like I just eat terribly.
Yeah.
It's
Legit.
just terrible, dude.
Yeah.
I'm talking like one of those tall cans of Arizona green tea.
Yeah.
Just basically sugar IV'd right into
Yeah.
my bloodstream. I really like the honey. Oh man, what is it? It's like the honey barbecue twisty.
Oh, Fritos.
Yes.
The Fritos. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
dude.
Those. Oh, bro,
Those
those
spirals?
are fire.
Yeah, I'm weak for those for sure.
Yeah.
And then candy wise, I love me some sour punch straws.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Some sour Skittles.
Take that, put it in your soda.
Oh yeah. Let it fizz up a little bit, stir it up a little bit, see what I get out going on. That stuff's terrible for me, and I know at this point, like I've done this enough, like I know what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah.
Like I know that there's heartburn in the future of
Yes.
that. I know that I'll wake up the next day and my entire mouth will be filled with canker sores
Yes.
from the sour Skittles I just like downed really fast.
Bro, I
Yeah.
can't say that we don't do this like commonly. Both me and my wife. It's like late at night, kids go to bed. You're like, hey, I'm just gonna go get some snacks at the gas station.
Oh, yeah.
And you just regret it every time in
Every
the
time.
morning. Every time.
Every time.
But then like something hits you again, and you're like, gas station snacks.
Back
like
again.
just
You see the guy at the
Like,
desk,
we're,
he's like, oh yeah. He literally has your order rung up before you even picked up a bag.
Yeah, he's like, I
This
got
is-
you.
this
This
is
is
bad.
going to be
I
it.
gotta
And then it's like 7 times more expensive than if you would have bought it anywhere else. But,
Always.
But you could justify it because it's that close. You know
Yes,
what I mean? So,
yes,
okay. Now, you write like a whole bunch of different songs. I mean, just for different churches, for SCU as well, but also for your own church and whatnot. What song for you personally has been like maybe like an anthem for you or something that has just meant so much like special to you that you've like so far have written? Because I know that, I mean, I feel like every time I talk to you, you have like 35 songs that you're marinating on and whatnot. So, but
Wow,
so far.
that's a good question, man. I think as I think about that, I kind of separate it into seasons, if you will, because there's special songs for seasons that I can like look back to and be like, wow, that meant so much. And it sort of was like an answer to prayer that kind of like led me to like what the next season would be. I think there's like kind of when I was just getting started with SCU, there's a song called Sanctuary that was really significant for not just our campus, but our movement, and then just my family personally. It's a song that kind of came from a really tough situation some close friends of ours had walked through, losing a child. And just, it was a song that never was meant to see the light of day. My friend who had gone through that with his wife approached me and was like, hey, would you just help me put some like music and melody to some of the prayers I've prayed to God through this process of healing and kind of restoration. And I was like, whoa, what a high honor, but almost like I really want to tread lightly with this because this is such a heavy moment for a family to walk through. And so it was never even like supposed to go on an album. It was just like a song to be meant to be sung in somebody's living room to just like seal a season for them of like, the Lord has healed us and now we can like move on with this song. But then I showed it to some of our students, and we were already about to hit record on this project and kind of already had the song settled. I'm showing it to a couple students, and they're like, that's our favorite song you've done so far for this. And I was like, really? I'm like, yeah. So then I showed it to a couple other people, and it just sort of kind of became like a fan favorite internally. Yeah. So we ended up recording it. First time we ever sang it was the night that we recorded it. Wow. And it was still like the most special part of the night. Like people just grabbed hold of it immediately. So it was that moment where it was like, man, what you maybe think is just personal, sometimes it's actually like the message in it is actually meant for masses. But he can trust it because there was no other intention than just like for the one, So that song was really special to us. It kind of carried us through a lot of seasons of like the song that people kind of first found of SCUs outside of like our regional influence we'd had, kind of became Sanctuary. Yeah. So it was really special. There's another song called Fire in My Bones that sort of felt like a really significant song for SCU worship in terms of like a season we walked into of like partnering with a label and publishing and just kind of being able to take that next step of stewarding the movement God was giving us. Fire in My Bones really was like the vehicle and the song that kind of helped catapult that season for us. And just an awesome song for me. I continually kind of come back to it. We'll even sing it this weekend, but the bridge of it, long before my first mistake, your mercy called me by my name. God, you found me and you always have me. That's just forever going to be like a little moment in my heart of like, it just softens anything I'm going through. Of just the reality of like, whoa, before I even like sinned, you had mercy ready for me, like tailor-made for my life, Wow. Just brings you close to the Lord. There's a more recent one, a couple that are really, really close to my heart. One's called Familiar Song. Another one is called Monday Morning Faith, both on this new record we just put out with SCU. Both for different reasons. Monday Morning Faith, I love the message behind it. Just the idea of like, hell's not scared of a Sunday faith if it only leads to empty praise. But what really makes darkness run is when the saints arise and praise in quiet on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Just the hidden moments of like, if I really want to love the Lord and have a faith that lasts the season of community and formation that got me started, my faith must graduate from like the coattails of my mother, my father, my grandparents, and it's got to become my own. And if I can't wake up on Monday morning and still walk out the same truth and authority I'm learning on Sunday, what good is it? Because it just lives in this pocket of my life that doesn't really, nothing else of my life sees Sunday if I don't create that bridge for this to become my lifestyle rather than like, oh, my parents drop me off at youth group. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. Oh, so true.
So Monday Morning Faith
Yeah.
has been a huge anthem for not just our campus, but even my life, my church. I got the idea for that bridge at my home church in California, just like a ministry moment of understanding, like what really makes hell tremble is when people get up on Monday morning and they're still ready to praise their way
Yep.
through a week and
Yeah.
declare this is who God says he still
Yeah.
is. So that's really special. There's a song from my home church I was a part of called As We Praise. And I feel like it's special to me because the way it was written was not sitting down in a room to write a song. It was us in the prayer room one morning, just catching the heart of God for the week and for the season and for the region and for our church, for our people. And it was singing into sort of the atmosphere, like something's breaking, something's changing, something is shifting as we praise you. So let's declare breakthrough, freedom, glory, and revival to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west. We're going to declare like a move of God has begun. So that song's taught me a whole different idea of like the weapon of praise when it comes to the life of a Christian and what's available to us in the authority of Jesus, the praise he's given us, because it's always been the thing he sent out to declare the victory's already been won. So lots of different pockets, but that's why I love songwriting. It's because each song has its own message, its own revelation, but its own purpose of where it will live, and then like what God will then do through it because of the soil it's attached itself to.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's so true, and I love that you're just saying that there's like these different moments and songs in different seasons of life, and I think it's just true because God's just speaking differently in different seasons.
Yeah.
And I just love that there's those different seasons in your life that you're saying that this song just meant way more to me.
Yes.
And this song hit me in this way, and I just think that's just like God's mercy, God's goodness, God's faithfulness all throughout your life.
100%.
So
Yeah,
that's super good.
And also, like it literally says, like his mercies are new every morning. Like nothing is going to stop that sun rising tomorrow morning. Nothing. And so if that's the truth, with it comes the mercy that God promises us. And with that mercy is like, there's a song in it. Like it's a sing to the Lord a new song. And I think if you truly believe that like this is the God we serve, there is a fresh revelation available every day of your life. But are you aware of it? And have you made space in your life to really let it feel welcome and trusted into your life and into being somebody that can carry a message that can truly change the world? And so I think learning that, maturing into that, but then also disciplining my life and my time to really make space and make room for it to be something that the Lord wants to do in my life, rather than like, hey, I have this available for you, but like it's been 30 years and you've never actually like scratched the surface of just reach up. There's a wavelength running of heaven. And if you just reach up, there's a song for today to sing, you know? So
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. You talked a lot about songs you've written on or worked on, but what things or people have influenced that the most?
Okay. I'm probably going to like age myself here with some of this conversation. I grew up kind of in the early 2000s. And so like early days of like Hillsong United,
Oh yeah.
like To the Ends of the Earth and More Than Life, Look to You, United We Stand. That era of United for me was like, oh, like I'm thinking about right now, and I can like see where I was.
You were
when I
like, this
first
is
heard
the
it.
acne David. Like,
Oh, 100%. We're talking braces, glasses, and acne. Like talking, it's like the trifecta of high school. You're literally like, ooh, somebody love me. Does anybody want to like me? No,
and that's
you
why
don't.
you need
Okay, cool.
Jesus in high school.
Yes. Yeah, that's how I found Jesus, because nobody else wanted me. I always joke around about it. I was like, man, the Lord really guarded and protected my heart through like my teenage years, and it wasn't through me actually being like, Lord, my life is yours. It was through like acne, it was through braces, and it was through looking like the biggest dork ever. Like that was God's
Humility
protection
after.
over my life. Wasn't how I thought it'd be, but man, it kept me pure, kept me holy, kept me in a place, dude. So
Word.
it's funny, bro.
Oh, that's so good. That's
But yeah,
so good.
okay, Hillsong United, those early days of some of those anthems back, like massively influential. I remember my dad, he's a pastor, he came home one day I was like in my room secretly listening to like Blink 182. I was like, yeah, let's go, rock on, you know. And then I hear like my parents going, I was like, I gotta get out the CD player. I gotta change the radio station after like driving my mom's minivan. I gotta change it back to the Christian station, you know. You guys get it. So I remember he came home and he's like, hey, there's this church that sent our church like a box. They're from Australia, and they sent like the latest books and albums from like their church, and it was Hillsong. This is like 2003, I think, 02, 03. He's like, there's a youth album in here if you want to like listen to it. And I was like, okay. Like, and mind you, like I'm listening to Blink-182, like System of a Down, like old school, like at the time, just so cool. But shout out to Blink-182, they just got a reunion tour going on.
I know.
Pretty cool. But it was a CD called King of Majesty. This is like old school, bro. And I popped it in, and I'm hearing like electric guitars, and I'm like, this doesn't sound like the music I listened to at church on Sunday. And I'm listening to the melodies, and they had this like similarity to like the Blink-182 stuff I was listening to, but the message is like Jesus. It's like, you know, King of Majesty, you're my one desire. You know, I just want to worship you. And I was like, I've never heard that intention paired with like an electric guitar that has like this pop hook to it that's memorable and catchy, and I want to keep listening to it. It was infectious, man. And I remember like thinking like, I guess you can be cool and like still like sing to Jesus. It can be really cool, you know, and still like love the Lord. That was the first time that opened like any possibility in my mind of like, wow, like I think you can do this without being ashamed of it. You know what I'm saying? So that was massively influential for me. There's a guy, he's a worship leader. I think he's from North Carolina. His name's Jason Upton. Jason Upton, if you look up his stuff, he's like the father of like prophetic worship of this last like 20 to 30 years of just like, whether it's the Bethels or the Upper Rooms, you know, or whatever. Anybody that's kind of come up out of that, like they'll cite Jason Upton as like a massive influence of somebody who just like knew the heart of God and was talented enough to be able to kind of like create it in song and in melody, like stuff that's like, dude, this is not like fluffy. Like you've really heard the voice of God. Like this is a revelation that's like only God could give you that kind of idea when it comes to like the freedom of the Lord and all these kind of the friendship of God and things like that. So that was massively influential for me, man. And then like, you know, growing up into that in the last like, you know, 10 years or so, I would cite, people like Bethel. My background, I came from like a really Pentecostal, prophetic sort of influence of like worship and stuff. So to see a church like Bethel be able to create their worship culture in such a way, it's like they were able to package prophetic worship and market it to the masses. Whereas before Bethel, it was always like very, very like, really underground, not super nice recordings.
Yep.
It felt like garage band.
Yeah,
Not it was a little bit of low quality. It wasn't like cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. Bethel kind of put a model to it that's like, how could this be done in a way that's accessible to many people rather than kind of just being the crazy Pentecostal church down the road. Yeah. And that was really influential to me because it was like, wow, like you don't have to be labeled as some like kooky weirdo, but you can still do this in a way that invites people, like Goodness of God. It's the number one song on CCLI right now. It's the number one song sung across the global church, Goodness of God, right? And a song anybody can sing. But you'll watch the Bethel live stream of them doing that live. They'll sing the song, but then they'll go into this like prophetic, spontaneous flow of on the spot, kind of exhorting the goodness of God and finding a fresh melody and a song of the Spirit. It's like I'd never seen that paired together before. It was almost like you had to be one or the other. You had to be either had to be Chris Tomlin or you had to be Jason Upton. There was like no in between. You know what I'm saying? You'd have to sing like songs that are just like right down the middle. Yep. Kind of like my mom and dad and grandpa will sing it, or I got to sing this song that like only like other person that I know knows this song because it's so obscure and like comes from the 24/7 prayer room in like Kansas City. You know what I mean? It's like, so that was really influential to me as a worship leader, as somebody who aspired to be a part of a worship movement one day, who are people that are forerunners in this, but have been able to bridge the gap of like what can reach the masses, but what holds the power that can still touch the one.
That's okay. Real quick, touch on that aspect of like that unashamed, like you pushed on that for a little bit there, because I think that a lot of times within people in worship and us going into just the presence of God in worship, sometimes there is, I feel like this heavy this heavy shamed moment of like, oh, I don't want to raise my hands. I don't want to sing songs loud. I don't want to you know what I mean? Like, I feel like especially in the church and especially sometimes, as different upbringings and people see, right? They see maybe their parents or whatever worship a certain way, and yet they want to be more expressive or whatever. Yeah. Like, how do you, what is your perspective on that? But then also, like, what do you feel like changed that where you just said, like, I don't care. Like, God, I'm going to give you my all in worship or whatever that might be.
Okay, so growing up in that background, right, you kind of have this love-hate relationship with it because you've seen the good, bad, and the ugly of it. You've seen it abused. You've seen it done in a way that's like, I don't think that's real. Yeah. Like it feels a little too much like showy or performance-based or like it seems rehearsed. And I think we all are able, no matter where you're at on the journey of faith, everybody has this like radar in them that can tell like that's real or fake. Yeah. Right? And even in Gen Z, like there's such a hunger for authenticity. Even if it's like not a good subject or it's something evil or detrimental, well, at least they're themselves. At least they're real to who they're being. You know what I mean? There's such a value in that, whether it's like whatever side of the spectrum it's in. And so growing up out of that, you sort of had this almost like self-preservation moment of like, I've seen a little too much weird of that. I want to stay away from it. Yeah. So to that point, it's like, okay, how am I then going to judge an entire movement of people based on one experience in one moment of my life? It's like, it's kind of not fair to, first and foremost, God, who's actually like, hey, I'm bigger than that. And I think it's just an understanding of like, what's my view of God? Like, how do I view God? Because how I view God is how I'm going to view myself. If I view God as sort of this person that's like very far away, kind of this distant power that I can only communicate with through this person in my life, a medium, whether it's my mother, my father, my youth pastor, or the worship leader, and then I don't really believe I've got direct access to him. So I'm probably going to view myself as somebody who's like not qualified to be able to talk to God, not qualified to pray in an honest way, not qualified to actually express my gratitude to this God who gave his life for me. It sort of already disqualifies you from me being able to put yourself in the story of like the redemptive, act of what the Bible even talks about, right? So I think that's like number one massive value of like, how do you actually see God? Do you rightly view him the way he is to be viewed? If you've got a false image of who God is, you're probably, whatever your worship looks like, it's probably coming from this like false narrative of like, it's probably not what you're supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? So beyond that, though, it's like I think you've got to find COVID for me really helped me find and understand like what do I really burn for, and when it comes to my faith, who am I, and how was I made to do it? Yeah. I think the beauty of the kingdom of God is there are so many streams that lead to eternity in terms of church, or movement, or ministry, or expression, or denomination, whatever it might be, right? God is no respecter of persons. What he's done for one, he can do for all, right? And I love the beautiful mosaic and expression of the kingdom. It doesn't really maybe look all the same, might not even like come through the same lens of perspective, but it still is the ends to glorify God and to make his name known in the earth, right? When it comes to the pocket of worship, though, I'm going to always come from an expression of how I was raised and what I've then come to reconcile who I am in the midst of my expression experience, right? And through COVID, I'm out in California. The laws were a little bit stricter than most in the nation. I'm leading to a TV, screen and a camera lens for like a year long, bro. Nobody in the room. And I'm finally coming back to the heart of worship, literally, of like, what is the easiest way I can just remove any distraction to help people that are, who knows where they are right now in their life or in their faith, connect to the presence of Jesus? I want to sing a song that might feel so simple, but if that's what gets them to open their mouth and invite him back in, I'm in, God. And so it kind of got to this point of like, I don't really care what it looks like, what it takes, or kind of how it's expressed. How can I get tear down the wall easiest for people to express themselves. And so for me, that led me back to a place of like, dude, I'm going to come at it full of passion, full of faith. I'm going to come at it with an understanding that I'm not just here to sing just pretty love songs to the Lord. I am, but I'm also here to declare with the authority of Jesus over people that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. And so if we believe his presence is in this place today, all we've got to do is enter in. He is faithful to take care of the rest. So don't worry about the end result here. Just take one step closer. Let's go back to Scripture where 2 or 3 are gathered in his midst. He is there right in the middle of it. And so if that's the case, let's pray. God, what is on your heart today and what do you want to do today? Because my response will always be this. I'm going to have hands lifted high and surrender to say, you are God and I am not. So count me in if that means whatever you want to say and do, like, here's my yes. If I can give him my yes, if that looks like raising my hands, great. If that looks like jumping up and down and dancing, great. If that looks like me focusing and my every thought surrendered to him in a moment of like, God, this is my worship. I don't really care what it looks like, but in the end, like inside is what God really looks at. And if that's what he's pleased by, like, Lord, whatever moves your heart, count me in. Like, it could look like a bunch of hoot and hollering crazy people. Awesome. If that moves your heart and it's pure, count me in. If it looks like solemn on our knees, just great, count me in. But whatever it might be, wherever I'm planted at a church, I'm going to align with the vision of that house, and I'm going to serve it the best that I can. So if it's a house that says, yeah, we're expressive, we're going to go for it, I'm going to align with that. I'm going to say, hey, let's go for it. If it's a house where it's like, hey, we're a little bit more of this, hey, I'm going to respect that. I'm going to honor that leadership. But my heart is always going to be heavenward in terms of like, get the hands high and let's get a vertical like direction of like, get our eyes off of all of the horizontal stuff that distracts us to a vertical revelation of like, oh, there he is. He's rightly and greatly to be praised.
That's so good. I love that. And I think, I really believe that, like, I love that you gave the perspective of, like, there's not a one way to worship, but there's an authentic way to worship.
Absolutely.
And, and I think that is what gets missed a lot is that no one's looking for a show when you worship. No one's looking for you to know exactly what to do. And, you know, people make fun of this all the time, like, right, the different types of worshipers. Yeah. But I believe that there's just that perspective of, like, what is worship to you and how is it authentic? Yeah. And how do you make sure you stay authentic in the midst of it when there is those influences and those people around you or whatever? And where's your mindset at? And so I love that you really have touched on all that. So
good, man.
Chet, you got questions for him? We want me to ask the last one.
Well, we have this reoccurring segment on the show where we call it the Quick Five.
Quick five.
So, do you have a top 5 app, or like top 5 apps that are on your phone, that you think everyone needs?
I do have one in particular that has been a life changer.
Okay.
When it comes to my schedule, it's called Calendly.
Oh yes.
Calendly.
They had the lead.
If you're not familiar with it, anybody that's watching, basically what it does. If anybody's ever come up to me like, hey, I want to get dinner, I want to get coffee, I want to catch up, or hey, can I get a meeting with you, right? Yeah. I'm notorious for kind of being like, Tuesday, I guess. Like at this time, I'll kind of just make a note in my phone, right? Or I'll put it in my calendar. Yeah. But then it's like the day comes, I'm like, oh man, I forgot this and this and this and this that it wasn't on my calendar. Calendly, basically, you put in what is on your calendar, and then there's a link that you're able to send to people, and then they're able to choose within the time frame of what you already have going on in your day, like 30-minute windows, a 15-minute window, an hour-long window, whatever you permit to actually set your meeting.
Wow.
Instead of me having to just like waste 10 minutes of somebody's time of like mentally checklisting through what I've got going on next week. Yeah. Send them the link, they figure it out, and then I just look at it when the day pops up and like, oh yeah, great. I got coffee with so-and-so in 15 minutes and we'll do a 30-minute catch-up and then it's done. Yeah. It's helped me with like setting boundaries, and it's helped me with just staying really organized when it comes to like any pastoral meetings, any like catch-ups or anything like that. Yeah. It's made it way easier.
Yeah. Organization, I think, is like huge, especially like, I mean, because you know this, it's like notorious, right? Everybody's like, oh, I want to talk with you, I want to hang out, and you're like, and it's like you don't know how to say no half the time, 100%. And then it's like, but it's not that I want to say no, it's just I don't know my calendar, so that I mean, and schedule, and so I think that's a great resource. Yeah. What would you say is your favorite like app game right now? Like if you had a you have time to kill. Like,
you're on the plane, right?
What are you playing?
Okay, I'll be honest, I've never been much of a gamer. I really haven't been.
Okay.
But if there is one vice of a app that I spend a lot of time on, it is the ESPN Fantasy Sports app.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
So I'm currently in 3 fantasy football leagues. I'm in 2 fantasy basketball leagues. Season just started. Yeah. My baseball fantasy league just ended. It was a terrible season for me. Don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time
Yeah.
in that world
Yep.
of kind of strategizing. and
Yes.
figuring out how I'm going to beat all these people.
Yes.
That I've
Well,
signed
and
up
there's
to
also this
compete
like,
against.
I always tell people when you play any type of like fantasy thing, there's also like some pride that's involved in it. Like your
Absolutely.
buddy's texting you, like
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean. Like you
Oh,
know that like it's gonna be
Yeah.
like a
It's a lot on the line, bro.
pain there.
Oh,
And
there's a
so,
lot on the line.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do. I've been in the same fantasy football league for 5 straight years.
100%.
So I totally get that.
My
But,
condolences at the moment
Yeah.
to how the Packers season's going.
oh, I am a diehard Chicago Bears fan. So,
Oh, okay.
So
My condolences for the
this
last
is-
10 years.
This is, since I've been alive, we've never done.
One of these days,
Uh,
Justin Fields is going to figure it
Yeah,
out.
one of these days.
Today's
you
not
know,
that day.
not with the situation. So
I do love sports, man.
Yeah.
I think, I watch it. I'm kind of up to date with it. It's kind of uncommon in the music world
Yeah.
to find other guys that are like really, But when I do find them, it's like, oh, you're one of those guys. Great. We can
Yeah.
actually like write some songs, but also talk shop when it comes to sports and stuff. A lot of other guys and girls in the music kind of worship world are kind of like, ew, sports.
Yeah.
But I like both of them.
Okay, here's the real question though.
Yep.
Okay, and you only have one right answer.
Okay.
Because I mean,
Okay.
you have to understand your audience.
Okay.
Okay, best basketball player in the world. In the world,
Guys, why are you doing this to me, man?
Best basketball player in the world, in your opinion, right now?
Far out. Okay. Well, I know the answer you all want me to say.
Yeah.
And I respect that.
Okay.
I do respect it.
Oh,
I
okay.
think he's in the combo.
Oh, okay.
He is in the combo. Giannis is in the combo.
Okay.
He's in the combo.
He is the combo.
But,
so,
and I'm not going to say it's LeBron. It's not LeBron.
yeah.
Lakers look terrible. so
He
far.
looks washed. I mean, I don't
And
care
he's
what anybody
old.
says.
It's a bummer that Russell Westbrook is getting paid $47 million this year to absolutely do nothing.
Westbrook.
But be a really bad team player.
Yeah.
Yeah, Westbrook for sure, dude. I mean, KD is unbelievable when he's on.
Yeah.
He's in a really weird team dynamic right now with
Yeah.
Kyrie. I think he should have never done the Brooklyn route. I'm a massive Steph Curry fan.
Okay.
The guy's just exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Not just because he's great individually. He's one of the best team players I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Watching the Warriors on the floor at the moment, it's unbelievable to watch just like the ownership that each take in assisting, kind of running point and what they're doing. Like they're going to be hard to beat this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was the wrong answer. But Giannis was the correct answer. And if Chris Middleton wasn't injured, we would have destroyed you guys in about 4. And so
I love Chris. Chris was on my fantasy team last year. That hurt me bad, his injury last year,
Yeah.
bro.
But we're back. We're fully healthy.
I will say this. What's been really funny to me, I'm originally from Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah.
So people are asking me kind of like, who's your team? And I've been saying like, oh, go Bucks. And people these days, because like the Milwaukee Bucks are finally relevant again. People are like, oh yeah, I love Giannis. I'm like, oh, sorry. No, not those Bucks.
Yeah, the one with the goat on it.
The
Tom
Buccaneers.
Brady.
Yeah. The one with Tom Brady on it. That's another conversation for another day.
good.
But go Bucks.
That's awesome.
And interpret that however you want to.
Yeah, that's good. I love it. Hey, thank you so much for joining us for this episode, man. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
Love you guys.
Appreciate it. All right, guys, we will see you next month. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in today for Greenhouse Podcast. Hey, if you like what you listen to and want to make sure that you stay up to date with every single month as we drop a new podcast, make sure you subscribe and you can follow us on our socials. Hey, we'll see you next month for the Greenhouse Podcast.